sub in Wuhan, and before the PLA could start using it, it went underwater.
China has suffered a significant blow to its naval ambitions. Its most advanced nuclear-powered attack submarine has sunk.
Before anyone noticed the missing submarine, the river around Wu Chang carried only the quiet rhythm of cranes and welding torches, unaware that a single overlooked valve would unravel years of ambition. What vanished beneath that muddy water was more than a vessel. It was evidence of a navy expanding faster than its own foundations could hold, leaving truth to surface only through silence and satellite trails. The submarine that was never meant to fail. When the Zhou-class submarine first appeared at the Wu Chang shipyard, analysts immediately recognized a vessel that was never meant to be ordinary. Its distinctive X-shaped stern signaled an ambition to rival the quietest hunters in the Pacific, while its hybrid propulsion concept aimed to merge the endurance of a small reactor with the stealth of diesel-electric operation. The submarine represented a technological leap for a navy eager to transition from regional defense to global reach, and its arrival drew attention precisely because it surfaced in a place that seemed unsuited for such a responsibility. Wu Chang had long been associated with conventional diesel-electric boats, facilities optimized for lighter hulls and simpler systems, rather than the delicate balancing act of nuclear machinery, high-voltage grids, and precision sensors. Yet there the submarine stood, tied to a pier along a muddy bend of the Yangtze River, waiting for a future that never came. The setting introduced the earliest suspicion that pressure, rather than planning, determined its location. As the vessel towered over the dock workers below, it carried the weight of a nation's expectations. Although its presence in that yard quietly suggested that something behind the scenes was already beginning to strain. A naval industry stretched to breaking point. China's naval buildup in the last decade accelerated at a pace that few industrial systems could match, and shipyards across the country found themselves grappling with production schedules shaped more by political timelines than engineering readiness. Nuclear submarines, once confined to specialized facilities with classified tools, trained staff, and carefully controlled workflows, began appearing in yards designed for simpler vessels because open slipways mattered more than suitability. This redistribution of work reflected not only ambition but also strain, as the infrastructure built for conventional fleets struggled to accommodate an entirely different class of machinery. Satellites captured the complexity of that moment with unintentional precision, documenting the submarine's presence at the pier in early spring. The image revealed a vessel clearly out of place, framed by cranes and workshops more accustomed to diesel engines than reactor shielding. Observers who compared these images to historical operations noted a mismatch between the yard's capabilities and the delicate final stages of nuclear submarine assembly. That mismatch foreshadowed the vulnerability of a process where even minor deviations could magnify into disaster. The stage grew more precarious as the submarine entered the phase known as final fitting out, when valves, hatches, electrical systems, and hydraulic lines are tested, cycled, and sealed. This period demands uninterrupted concentration, strict adherence to checklists, and teams trained for the consequences of every opened or closed component. Yet, the images suggested a production environment operating under unrelenting pressure, where speed overshadowed caution and capacity gaps forced improvisation. These conditions created an atmosphere in which a single oversight could move quietly through the workflow, setting the groundwork for a failure that would soon reveal itself in the most public way possible: the pierside failure no one saw coming. Reconstructing the moments leading to the submarine's disappearance begins with an error so ordinary that it can be difficult to comprehend how profoundly it shaped the vessel's fate. During final fitting out, technicians move through confined compartments to calibrate valves, check intake systems, and verify pressure seals that protect the hull from even minor water intrusion. One unsecured hatch or improperly sealed intake valve might appear trivial in the controlled environment of a pier, yet in a submarine packed with high-voltage systems, hybrid propulsion components, and sensitive instrumentation, the difference between secure and unsecured becomes catastrophic in seconds. When river water first entered the hull, it carried more than moisture. It carried silt, minerals, and industrial residue drawn directly from the Yangtze's current. These contaminants interacted with electrical systems engineered for purity. overwhelming bus bars, converters, and reactor sensors, with an abrasive mixture that short-circuited equipment designed to operate under exacting conditions. Circuit boards failed not gradually but instantaneously, each arc generating a cascade that moved through propulsion elements and control panels faster than any human response could counteract. Mechanical systems suffered similar damage as water found compartments intended to house diesel machinery, battery arrays, and auxiliary equipment. Bearings seized as grit-infiltrated housings, while engine cylinders met abrasive material they were never designed to withstand. Ballast tanks, essential for buoyancy control, filled with sediment that undermined their reliability and structural integrity. Within minutes, the submarine that had been shaped to navigate deep ocean pressures began to succumb to forces far less dramatic, yet far more destructive in their simplicity. The vessel did not roll or drift, it sank in place, overcome by a chain reaction initiated by one overlooked component. That quiet descent marked the moment when a technical mistake revealed the far larger vulnerabilities behind it, the hidden workforce problem. Behind the technical explanation lay a broader and more consequential reality that seldom appeared in official reports, because the submarine's failure did not begin with one valve. It began with a workforce stretched beyond the limits of training and specialization. China's naval expansion created demand for skilled technicians at a rate the defense industry could not sustain, prompting shipyards across the country to recruit supplemental labor teams from unrelated sectors, including commercial construction and high-speed rail projects. These workers were capable in their own fields, yet they lacked the nuanced experience required for nuclear submarine assembly, where precision sealing, wiring calibration, and systems testing must follow standards with no tolerance for deviation. Open-source audits and labor procurement documents from recent years indicated that a significant portion of tasks once reserved for trained specialists had increasingly been assigned to temporary hires who learned procedures through accelerated instructions rather than years of apprenticeship. This practice allowed shipyards to satisfy production quotas, but it eroded the reliability of processes that depend on cumulative expertise. Submarine outfitting demands exact knowledge of how valves interact with hydraulic networks, how electrical routing affects sensor stability, and how maintenance cycles guard against cascading failures. Without that knowledge, even well-intentioned crews can introduce vulnerabilities invisible until they manifest as catastrophic outcomes. Political pressures intensified the problem because internal promotion systems rewarded speed and compliance more reliably than caution or transparency. In such an environment, pausing work to flag uncertainty became a professional risk, and checklist verification sometimes devolved into routine formalities. The submarine at Wu Chang was therefore not only the victim of one mistake, but also the product of an industrial ecosystem that relied on improvisation to bridge its labor gaps. When the water entered the hull, it exposed this deeper fragility, transforming a local error into a national lesson about the consequences of ambition outpacing capability. The silence that followed. In the weeks after the submarine vanished beneath the river, the first signs of its fate appeared not in Chinese media, but in satellite frames shared by analysts who monitored naval infrastructure as part of their daily routine. One set of images captured the submarine tied to the pier in March, its X-shaped stern casting a distinctive shadow across the water. The next set, taken in June, showed an empty berth flanked by 4 large floating cranes forming a square over the river's surface, a configuration unmistakably associated with salvage operations. The absence of launch ceremonies, public briefings, or even routine shipyard announcements only deepened the realization that the vessel had not departed under its own power. Those cranes became the most visible confirmation of a loss that no official statement acknowledged. Observers who analyzed the sequence noted how quickly the narrative shifted from expectation to secrecy, with online discussions disappearing and state-affiliated platforms reframing the images as misinterpretations or irrelevant construction activity. Yet the timestamps, water displacement patterns, and equipment positioning aligned too precisely to support such deflections. The truth remained embedded in the imagery itself, which recorded the shipyard's urgency even as public information channels fell silent. Comparisons inevitably arose with nations that had faced similar mishaps. When the USS Guitaro sank during construction in 1969, the United States responded with a detailed investigation and open communication, acknowledging error as part of maintaining institutional credibility. The contrast at Wu Chang revealed the strategic cost of withholding information, because global audiences formed conclusions in the absence of explanation. In this silence, the Cranes became witnesses to a story the official record refused to tell, a pattern that extends beyond one submarine. The circumstances surrounding the submarine's loss fit into a broader pattern that analysts have observed within China's defense manufacturing sector, where rapid expansion often intersects with institutional incentives that prioritize output above accuracy. In several documented cases unrelated to naval construction, shortcuts emerged in similarly high-stakes programs. One investigation revealed that liquid-fueled missiles were accepted despite their tanks being partially filled with water, a consequence not of sabotage but of pressured sign-offs that allowed incomplete systems to advance through procedural checkpoints. These incidents demonstrated how the drive to meet ambitious production targets could overshadow the rigorous oversight required for complex machinery. Within this environment, transparency frequently became a liability. Engineers who identified deficiencies risked professional stagnation if their warnings slowed progress, while managers who delivered rapid results advanced regardless of underlying vulnerabilities. Such dynamics gradually shaped a culture in which silence outweighed caution, and systemic flaws accumulated in ways invisible until failures forced them into view. The submarine's descent into the river therefore represented not an isolated lapse, but a manifestation of these recurring pressures, which magnified the impact of every overlooked detail. Observers who studied these patterns recognized that industrial strength depends not only on capacity, but also on the mechanisms that ensure competence, accountability, and internal honesty. Without these elements, even advanced platforms remain susceptible to basic errors that echo far beyond the moment they occur. The river eventually returned to its quiet rhythm, yet the unanswered questions surrounding the submarine's fate endured, revealing how pressure can erode even the strongest ambitions. If this investigation challenged your assumptions, subscribe for more, share your thoughts below, and join us as we uncover stories hidden beneath the surface.